More than the grappling that goes inside the octagon, the UFC relies heavily on its ability to sell matchups that pique the interest of fans. Most matchups end up being superb for an entertainment perspective, resulting in a big payday for everyone involved. Sometimes, though, they don't materialize, and St-Pierre vs. Khabib was one of those matchups. Let's take a look at what went wrong with that. First up, Georges St-Pierre. Dana White lied. The legendary Canadian mixed martial artist Georges St-Pierre believes that Dana White lied about his fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov. Sitting down with Patrick Bet-David, he discussed the details of the biggest super fight that never happened. St-Pierre talked about how the fight was never set to happen, and White lied to him. In a way, we can't rule out that possibility, to be honest, because it's common for promoters to rile potential opponents up in a bid to get them in the octagon. Not sure if that's a common theme with the man who runs the UFC, but we wouldn't be surprised if it was. The lie, as per St-Pierre, was about approaching Khabib before coming to him. Apparently, White told St-Pierre that he talked to Khabib about the possibility of a fight, and Khabib had agreed to it. That's when he discussed the idea with the UFC Hall of Famer. As it turns out, that wasn't true, because he's 100% sure that White approached him before talking to Khabib. Why the fight didn't materialize. This revelation of White lying is huge in context of the failed fight, because previously both sides had given their own reasoning for the fight not going ahead. It was obviously a bummer for the fans who wanted to see the legendary duel take place, and wanted more detail as to why it didn't happen. And he knew the potential of making big money from a possible matchup between the two modern-day GOATs. St-Pierre indicated that the whole thing was all BS, and it wasn't until the reaction from Khabib's camp that the Canadian realized White was being strategic about the fight. Ali Abdelaziz, Khabib's agent, had come out the following morning after White had met with St-Pierre and stressed that now Georges wanted to fight, but now we have already retired. It's obvious that White, using his skills, was trying to broker a fight in his own clever way. Plus, GSP won't be a stranger to the UFC and Dana White pulling such stuff off. He also infamously lost out on a huge payday when the UFC pulled out the plug on his exhibition match against boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya. It's all part of the grand strategy. Next we have Khabib. St-Pierre lost desire. A couple of months back, Khabib was talking to the Full Send podcast when he was questioned about the legendary fight not taking place. Khabib pointed out to compete in the UFC, you need the competitive fire, and once it goes out, there's no point in staying in the promotion. He believes that in St-Pierre's case, the fire went out almost a decade ago when he defended his title against Johnny Hendricks. There's definitely some truth to this. You have to take into consideration that these fighters make a living out of beating each other in the ring and are used to that pressure. So for them, there's a limit, and when you cross that, the fights aren't competitive anymore. Without the hunger to compete, you simply can't be at the top of your game. It varies from person to person, and some end up in the division much longer than others. Khabib's reply was very balanced, and he took a sensible approach, and timing of their careers meant that the fight would have never been a possibility. That's because during Khabib's peak, St-Pierre was long retired, and during St-Pierre's peak, Khabib was setting on his remarkable UFC journey. Khabib believes that St-Pierre wasn't enjoying being in the ring, even when he defended his title against Johnny Hendricks, and it was more or less a matter of contractual obligations. We're pretty sure we know what Khabib is talking about because he, just like St-Pierre, retired at the very top of his game. It turns out that being good at fighting shouldn't be the only reason you stay in the division. Will we ever see St-Pierre versus Khabib? That's the question, isn't it? Both the fighters have reiterated on many occasions how they won't be returning to action. If they do return, a fight against each other would be high on their list. They're both regarded as the greatest UFC fighters of all time, and both retired when they were the best, which makes the prospect of a matchup even more interesting. Although if St-Pierre has his way, there's still a chance that we could see Khabib and the Canadian legend going at it with each other, even though St-Pierre confirmed that he's done with MMA because health comes first. He went on to add that he'd be interested in a potential grappling match with the Eagle. He said that he's still in the entertainment world. He still trains like a professional athlete, so if there's a novelty fight and it's well organized, then a fight would be a real possibility. GSP revealed how close friends who see him train keep asking him if he's preparing for a return. And we can't lie, we also think he's keeping his options open. Of course, if there's a possibility of a matchup, he'd know, and that's why he's staying in extremely good shape. Khabib is 7 years younger than GSP and quit the UFC less than 2 years ago, so it shouldn't be an issue of losing the touch. His record at 29-0 is better than GSP's 26-2, and if they're willing to settle the GOAT debate in a grappling contest, it might just be the best thing that happened in our sport. Now in other related news. Enough talk about the legendary champions. Let's take a quick look at what's going on in the UFC world. Another near-death experience for UFC featherweight Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy experienced another near-death experience and has been hospitalized following a scary cycling accident. Posting a picture on Instagram, which showed his head covered in bandages, the British mixed martial artist explained that he'd suffered a nasty head wound and had to wait almost an hour for medical assistance, leading him to nearly bleed out on the scene. FFS, I can't catch a break, remarked the young UFC fighter and shed some light on his horrific accident. Discussing the accident, he added how an oncoming car turned right without looking and there was a collision of speed leading to the scary injury. He believes that he's here for a greater purpose, clearly, after surviving the scare, and it hasn't been the first time he's been in a near-death experience. The 30-year-old in 2013 was shot 3 times in the face and neck after leaving a barbershop in Fallowfield, Manchester. Miraculously, Murphy recovered from the incident within a week and was given the name of the Miracle when he decided to pursue a career in MMA. UFC veteran Yorgan De Castro, John Jones will run through Stipe Miocic. If the words of the UFC veteran is anything to go by, Stipe Miocic will have his hands full when he takes takes on 255-pound Jon Jones in the octagon. Yorgan De Castro has been training with the heavyweight Jones and revealed that the former perennial champion has been waiting for more than 2 years for the fight to take place and hasn't lost motivation to go in the ring and defeat the UFC legend Stipe Miocic. De Castro gave us an insight as to how Jones is training these days and mentioned his ability to hit the pads for 2 hours without slowing down and has so much cardio. Sparring with Jones obviously isn't supposed to be an easy task, but De Castro added that it never gets easier because Jones is multidimensional in the ways he attacks. Given the wealth of experience that De Castro gathered during his own years fighting in the division, he believed that Jon Jones will run through Stipe Miocic. Charles Oliveira, UFC is not to blame. Charles Oliveira was the center of some weigh-in controversy before his title fight and win against Justin Gaethje in UFC 274. Fans believe that he'd been screwed over in the weigh-in and should have been awarded the title because it was only half a pound more, while others believe that it was the right call. What do you think about it? Either way, now that the dust has settled on this fight, Oliveira has joined the conversation with what he thinks of the fiasco. Surprisingly, the Brazilian isn't blaming the UFC because he believes that they're not responsible for the weigh-ins. He's called out the Athletic Commission instead and thinks that they may have been at fault. All in all, it doesn't seem like Oliveira's passion to get his title back has decreased because he's focused on winning the next one and getting the title that he deserves. That's a wrap for this video. Would you like to see GSP go up against Khabib? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.